What up, though? We are back with another episode of Speak for Yourself, and we definitely have Ken Elkins in the building.
Peace.
And a special guest, Martez Brooks from Kardiak Films. What up, Martez?
What up, though?
So you probably know the whole routine on introducing yourself. We always like to invite our guests to introduce themselves by whatever thing about you want our audience to know about you. So take it away.
Perfect. I guess the best way I describe myself is a God-fearing man, first and foremost. Second behind that, a husband. Then after that, a father. And then all the other good stuff that people like to recognize me from, whether that be camera guy, creative director, Third Street Tez, Kappa Tez. I live many lives already, so a lot of people know me for a lot of different things. So
That's what's up. So
my Padawan, my little Padawan for is what most people know you as.
Yeah, I was definitely gonna turn the mic over to you, kid. So how many years back do y'all go?
Yeah, since Youth Field Detroit, starting in 2009.
Nice. So I guess how would you kind of introduce Martez?
The funny part about it is, so Martez showed up at our Youth Field Detroit. We had a camp, right? We had a camp for video introducing video production to the young people. I think Martez is like 20, something like that, about 20 years old when he came in. And everybody had to introduce themselves. And he introduced himself as Arrogant Tez. That was his introduction.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, oh, hell no.
You're going to be a perfect protege for me.
Right.
Like, me and this guy have a lot in common.
For real? For real. But, so he came aboard, man, and just really jumped in, wanted to learn a lot about video production. Was very active in video production, in the directing and the shooting. That year we made a film. What was it on, Martez?
Where would you be when the smoke cleared? I think they just put it out.
Yeah. So it was on marijuana smoke, right?
Marijuana.
Yeah. So youth and smoking marijuana and effects that smoking marijuana have on young people. So that was the documentary we did. And so, Martez just took lead into directing that, shooting it, editing it, and just we put out a really good product. We made a couple of PSAs for different organizations, for Crime Stoppers, for a bunch of different people. So from there, but most of all, him and some more young men from that North End, 3rd Street area used to just come into my office, and we just used to, besides all the video work, all that stuff out of the way, just sit and talk. Just talk about manhood, talk about them coming up as young men, what they was experiencing at that time, some lessons I may have learned, or other men who would come into that space and talk to them and what they've learned, and it just really grew into a closeness that we all got with each other, especially me and Martez. We capped a lot on each other. He used to wear these beat up Rockport. No, they was I can't remember the shoes he used to have on, but he's always try to score on me, right? You know how young people do. They try to roast you.
You know how Detroit do the Saginaw.
They try to roast you because they don't think you. They think you're an old person. You can't roast back. So then when I started hitting them back, he was like, "All right, Mr. Ken. All right, Mr. Ken. Enough's enough." But developed a great relationship, man, and then gave him some advice in regards to where he wanted to go with his career, and the dude took off from there.
Nice. So did you have any experience when y'all first connected?
No. Funny thing about it is, full circle, the universe and God. Before meeting Ken, I was just a regular teenager, running the streets in Detroit, the Cartier, the glasses, going in the nightclubs, talking to the girls. I was working at Chrysler, so being 18, 19 years old, working at Chrysler, making $500 to $700 a week, and my mom only asking for $75 every check. It's like,
you was balling.
Yeah, I was balling. So, just doing all that, and then the big three happened. Like I said, we met in 2009, and Chrysler, and they crashed, and I got laid off. And I thought that summer I was about to go to the Navy, and then I believe that was the first year of GDYT, but it wasn't called GDYT because it was the first cohort. And everybody from my neighborhood ran down and got jobs. And me, like he said, at the time, being arrogant, like, I ain't doing that. Everybody else doing it. I ain't doing it. I'm going to the Navy. I'm going to make 40, 60,000 a year and save my money, come back and ball on y'all. That was my mindset at the time. But then a couple cats that went down, they convinced me to go sign up. And I was like, all right. And at that time, I'm like, if I go there for the summer and make a spare change, I can, spend these last dollars on going out having a good time with my friends, because I know if I go to the service, I'd be gone for forever. So I went down there, and surprisingly, a couple people went before me, and they placed them elsewhere, but I got placed at UVille, Detroit, with another one of my partners. And we got there, like Ken said, first day, they asked us, like, what y'all want to do? I mean, it was two different sides. And the dude I went down with, he went on the television side. And I'm like, ain't no way we got to go on the same side. We got to, I'm going to go over here to the documentary side, which what Ken was teaching. And, so that's when I got introduced. But the point I was making before that was my mom had an old digital camera, like, not old, but a camera at that time was digital. And it took stills with video. So I thought it was clever enough to take this camera before we go out to the club, film me and my homeboys with money and all of this, and talk crap. And you would never see the videos. I got them very hit. But I was doing that, and, man, one of my partners, my best friend, man, somebody, the house that we used to chill in, robbed him. And he ended up punching a glass and tearing some stuff in his arm, almost killed himself behind me doing the videos and posting it. So that was the most I did with videos up until me and Ken at UVille.
Wow. So because of them seeing, like, videos of y'all flossing, so to speak, he was like, okay, they have something here.
Yeah.
Let me go and rob them. Wow.
Yeah, stupid stuff. Ken, I mean, it wasn't to probably like 5 or 6 years ago. Ken used to still get on me about stuff like that. About 5, 6 years ago, I finally got it through, like, oh, that's what you mean. Don't post what you're doing. Don't post where you at.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I think we often having conversations in Detroit about, like, young men, young women, young people in the city getting a skill, right, or going to college. It always seems like there's a conversation about to do this or to do that. You've been fortunate enough to experience both, right?
Yeah.
You went to college, but you also have a skill that, like, seems to be doing pretty well for yourself now and your family.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that, right? Like, as somebody that's experienced both, you're an entrepreneur, a very good one, but you also went away to school. What's the difference for you, and what would you say to somebody that's looking to try to figure out which direction they should go in?
I mean, I'm an advocate to honestly just being a boss and an owner, but also know that in order to be a boss and an owner, you need people that you can employ. So if I tell everybody to be a boss and an employee, then who I have to work for me? Yeah. So I'm not going to ever steer somebody in that direction. I just say follow your heart, follow your passion, and do what works for you. Because I was just fortunate enough to, meet Ken at UVille. And funny thing about it, like I said, just to piggyback off of my side of the story, how I met Ken, meeting him, and I'm thinking he's a corny dude from Saginaw. We from Detroit. I'm 20, 21, so I'm thinking I'm an adult, mano to mano, man. And, but like you said, that summer we just roast each other, and I'll never forget. Everybody went back to school and went back to college or high school, and I would just come up there every day with them. And I'll never forget those people from the White House coming in and watching the video. And Ken is like, yeah, this is Martez. He directed, edited. And at this time, this is my first time. That's like you picking up this camera. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, Dwan did the whole podcast. You like, what? So I'm like, why is he doing this? I'm like, I ain't even that good. But I realized it years later when I was like, oh, because they like, we can give you a grant to go to school for this. And I'm like, oh, really? And I'll never forget, Ken was like, hey, I was way more of a knucklehead than you are. You can go to school for this. You got your head on more than I did. And I was like, huh? He's like, come to my office next day. Came into his office, and he was like, what you want to do? At that time, I just loved music. I thought I wanted to be an audio engineer. And Ken was like, we went over the top 5 jobs for African-American men in the next 10 years. And, of course, it was all the stuff, doctors, nurses, pediatricians, and none of them rung a bell with me. And then he was like, it looked like you enjoyed doing video this summer, pointing back to his degree. You can go to school for this. I'm like, word? I'm like, yeah, that don't sound too bad. He's like, look, if you're serious, go get your ACT scores, your transcripts, and I'll put a letter of recommendation in for you. And that was October 2009. I did that and came back and filled it out and sent it off to Ferris. But what also was interesting about me and Ken's relationship was I never forget. Ken did this thing at the end of the summer with all the fellas where he took them to his house. Like I said, up until then, I'm roasting Ken. I'm like, all right, whatever. This, Saginaw dude. And I never forget driving into his gated community, walking into his house and seeing these spiral stairs with this chandelier. And I'm like, oh, shit. Like, this
he's not
dude.
That corny.
Oh, no, he's not that corny at all. He knows something. And, being from the hood, that's the biggest house I ever been in to date. You know what I'm saying? So seeing that, and it's so funny still to this day, my wife says it all the time. He said, if Ken says it, you will believe it. Ken says you'll do it. It was like, I mean, that's my mentor, so this put some context on that. Since that day, it's like I was, anything he said as a mentee, I was willing to listen because I know he'd been places I wanted to go, and he was still, going there every year. So it's like,
That's heavy, man. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, man, it's always made me feel good, just mainly to help tell people, you know what I mean? Like, I love Martez dearly, and the crazy part is mentees probably do just as much, if not more, for you than you do for them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because they give you that value that you need at times to know, all right, I should still keep going because you got somebody looking at you too, besides just your kids, right? But, again, similar to him, I remember when I was coming up, same thing, coming from the hood. I went to a dude's house. They had a Christmas tree, and me and him talked about the story because me and him both did the same thing. So they had a Christmas tree and a train around it. And I'm like,
some TV stuff.
Yeah, where they do that at? And they had a big house, right? And I also remember seeing men in suits. And so I was like, you know what? One day I'm going to wear a suit. One day I'm going to have a Christmas tree with a train around it. And soon I had a Christmas tree with a train around it. I shared that story. Martez got a Christmas tree with a train around it. You know what I mean?
But do you have a spiral staircase at your crib, though?
I mean, something like that. I got like 3 chandeliers. I mean, I got a catwalk. I wanted a catwalk.
You got a catwalk.
I didn't want the spot. I wanted a catwalk. I wanted to be able to look over and be like,
when you look down, that's what's up. That's what's up.
So going through that. But it's interesting, too, like when we talk about the college piece and the question you asked is coming through with me going through college. I was thinking the only way for us to get to where we need to be was going through college, right? Mm-hmm. Having finished, that was my perception of things. And then so I talked to Martez and a few other young men and encouraged them to go to college, and they all did. Mm-hmm. And a few of them all decided to leave, including Martez. And all of them are doing very well, right? When I say very well, I don't mean out here making hundreds and thousands of dollars. I mean taking care of
Martez.
But we ain't talking about Martez right now. But you know what I mean, but just good fathers, good husbands, making a living, taking care of their family, owning a home. You know what I mean? And so zooming out and looking at them young men doing amazing things, being men, taking care of their families. I'm like, you know what? That ain't the only route. You know what I mean? You can become a boss, an entrepreneur. You can pick up a certification, a trade, and become, which some of them are engineers doing facilities maintenance, right? Or you can do work and on your own clothing line, right? Like Harry Rich, right?
Right.
So all of these young men who are doing amazing things, who didn't go the traditional college route, who tried it and did something different. So now I have a different perspective. And Martez has showed me a lot in that, to where he'll come ask me some things. I'm like, dog, I don't agree with that. And he'll be like, well, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. I'm like, all right, well, keep this in mind. And he'll give it a shot. And then, boom, turn out, it blossomed for him. You know what I mean? So I've learned a lot from him just on taking different type of risk as well, to where I might have been a little bit more risk adverse earlier in my career. But just like learning from him too, it takes some risk on some things.
Yeah, I appreciate that, right? So like that, I mean, that story right there just reminds me. I had a conversation with someone that was looking to mentor me, and the person said, like, are you going to listen? And I had to be honest, and I said, you know, I will listen, but I will gather the information and then I'll make a decision. I'm not necessarily going to listen and do exactly what you advise me to do, but I respect your advice. So for you to say in one breath that how often you listen to Ken to the point where your wife has a running joke about it, but then Ken to say, I advised him in one way and he went in a different way and it worked out. You know what I mean? So I think that there's sometimes a misconception that to be mentored means you're going to do exactly what to be the person that's advising you says to do, and that's not the case. So I respect that. Kardiak Films.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about what is Kardiak Films?
Kardiak Films is my film company. So once I got to college, I got up there, and I thought I was Columbus Shut-Off, stumped the yard. So I'm like, first I'm like, these dudes whack. And then I'm like, I want to be like these dudes. So I pledged Kappa, and in the midst of pledging, I got the name Kardiak. So once I dropped out of school, I just thought it'd be clever to use my line name, which was unique, and I had to worry about nobody else having it. And that's how Kardiak was born in the namesake.
Okay.
Even that, he came to us like, Ken, what you think about Kardiak Films? I was like, dude, you don't shoot film. Like, call it Kardiak Production or Kardiak this. He's like, nah, I'm going to call it Kardiak Films. And as you see, it's still Kardiak Films, right? So, you know what I mean? Like, he always bounces stuff off me. And again, if it's good advice, he listens. And if it's something like, nah, I'm going to go with my role, you know, and we just keep it moving, right?
He might be coming to you to give you advice, and whatever you say, he like, that's what I shouldn't do. You know what I mean? He might have figured out how to really use your advice to make the most out of
to make the best decision. I'm going to do this instead.
Projects. Talk about some of the projects that you've worked on locally in Detroit that people might be aware of and not know that that's you behind the scenes producing and shooting.
And even start before then, because there's an interesting story. I'm sorry. Start before, like, what got you hot? What got Kardiak Films hot? Because you got people out here getting work, you know what I mean, and they don't necessarily know what you put in to get to where you at. So talk about how you got to where you at and what got you popping.
So, like I said, dropped out of college and came back home, and I was blessed within the first month or so to have a friend that was managing Dave's Loaf and give me a call like, hey, we need a cameraman today. So the opportunity presented itself. I went and I showed up and did a good job. They called me back, and then that turned into me and Dave's touring for like 2 to 3 years. So I was with Dave's Loaf, who was picking up her steam and becoming hot. So, you know, as a videographer in the music industry, if you're able to attach yourself with someone that's hot, that'll eternally make you hot, because now you're at the BT shows, and you know, I've been to South Africa with her, you know, so that was the beginning of my career, was just being with Dave Sloaf and making my name off that.
Nice.
And it's funny with that, again, another time he didn't listen to me, but only because they weren't paying him a huge amount of money. It was paying them
nothing at all.
They weren't, but you know, not a huge amount of money. And so he's like, I'm gonna do it, Ken. I'm like, all right, man. Well, you know, just boom, make sure you got these measures in place, you know, to protect yourself, whatever. Then all of a sudden I'm seeing he in South Africa, he at the BET Music Awards. I'm like, well, damn, that was some bad advice, Ken. Like, I'm sitting there jealous. I'm at the crib. He in South Africa.
Hey, my running joke used to be for years before I got with my wife was I've been on the plane over 100 times and never paid for a ticket. Because that's how much I was traveling every week just to be with Dage or to be doing some video work.
Nice. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I'm seeing a thread, right, that you really value and believe in education. Mm-hmm. So you talk about like studying under Ken and then going to school, but also like taking a job that's going to give you more exposure, more opportunity, and probably learned a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing, right? As you talk about, like, I think really where you were at is you really believe that education was a great stepping stone to catapult you into more options.
Yeah.
And I still believe that. As somebody that's never been to college, you know what I mean? Like, I really, really believe in education. But I just think that we've kind of put it in a box the way we describe it and define it at times.
Exactly. Which it was, because honestly, college is one of the best things that happened to me. Like I said, to go there to be able to pledge, and that was my network. Like when I jumped out of school, like a lot of those first initial business relationships that was clients came off of me being in Capitol. Like relationships I built off that, or friendships I built in college. And then I tell my wife too now that we think about our son, and when he gets older, I'm like, I mean, I want him to do what he want, but I definitely want him to experience college, even if it's for 2 years, just for the sake of that networking and just being able to be on your own and, you know, experience.
Yeah, no doubt. Love it. So you got some exciting stuff that's happening currently with Kardiak Films. Talk to us about that.
I mean, I wouldn't say too much exciting, and I say that humbly because, I mean, nothing kind of excite me outside of, like, family, you know? Like, I love what I do, and I love my talent that God has given me, but, I mean, it's exciting in the sense of that I'm doing it. Like you said, like I just released another film, had another film premiere. That's exciting. But the most exciting things I haven't done yet, because my passion projects, the stuff that once I leave this earth, I want people to be able to be like, I watched that and that changed my life. Like my first documentary, Dear Dad, it's something that's still near and dear to my heart. And it was just about father and son relationships, something that's near and dear to my heart before I became a father. You know, so
is that a project that's out?
It's a project that's out. Okay. It's on YouTube.
So people can find it on YouTube.
Yep, Dear Dad, Kardiak Films.
Dear Dad, Kardiak Films.
So I'm gonna call bullshit.
Okay.
Because he's being super humble, but me being watching him, like. Yeah, just watching him. You know what I mean?
Go ahead, man. Go ahead. Take your time. But I mean, you talk about like loving him dearly. You know what I mean? We don't get to see that a lot. We don't get to see brothers on camera like with this type of relationship. Man, there's a million platforms where they got brothers dissing brothers. Man, I wouldn't call any of them by name, but it ain't hard to find them. So to be here and be able to be a fly on the wall in y'all's relationship, you know, it is life-giving for me. And I don't care if this don't even get any views. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's rewarding for me. So take your time, collect yourself. You know what I mean? And just share.
Yeah, just watching them. You know what I mean? Like you said, his first documentary, Dear Dad. So I was at the premiere of that, and it was like a basement ass documentary.
It definitely was.
You know, so he told you to go look for it on YouTube. He might have wanted to tell you to wait till we do the next one. The next one. But part 2. You know, but he started out. You know what I mean, and but what I love is like I've always wanted to make a documentary. Like you're not gonna tell Martez what he's not going to do. Like he's going to go do it, and he ain't gonna wait. You know what I mean? So boom, then that's what I love. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times we put, and you're like this as well, but in regards to going to do what's supposed to get done, a lot of times we put all these walls in our way. I can't do this because of this. I can't do this because of that. Da 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 da. And then there's some people like, I see all of that. Bam, I'm gonna go do it anyway. You know, and that's Martez. So with that documentary, did it at that premiere at the club. Probably about 50 people, something like that, right? About 50 people show up. Then boom, he grinding, doing all his work. He's heavy, and the wedding industry heavy in corporate videos. Got a partner, they're heavy in music videos. They do a lot of work, a lot of work. His name is known throughout the city, right? So watching that, seeing him become this person, and doing all these amazing things, and then he hit me up one other time like, hey, I want to make a movie. And then he was like, come to me at his boy house, and we went over there, and he making that movie. He ain't even put that movie out because that movie was garbage. So he ain't even put that movie out, right? And so then, but he ain't stopping. Like he don't stop. So he's still like, okay, bet. All right, that one may be where I wanted to be at. So he started refining his craft, Then he said, okay, and this is what I mean. What he does, like you said, the education piece. Then he said, all right, Ken, I'm going to hook up with this dude who's doing movies, and I'm just going to learn the craft. And I'm going to start, learning the craft and making movies. Then he did the first movie. The editing on that was bomb. The videography on it was just dope. And I'm like, just looking at this like, wow. Because I've always wanted to make a movie. And I'm looking at him like, wow.
You making movies.
You making movies. So then he do another one. Then he do another one. And then the last one, like, all right, the one he just did, he's like, I'm making an action movie. Like, people who don't know movies don't necessarily know how hard it is to make an action movie. Right? So his first movie that he doing on his own, he could have just went with a drama, something that was easy. But Martez, being Martez, always got to be extra. And so he makes an action movie, which now requires special effects and all this kind of stuff. Remember, I told you Dear Dad was a basement movie, had 50 people in it. The action movie that he just had the premiere in was at the Bel Air, and what was like 500 and some people there?
700.
Dang.
50 people to 700 people, bro. And I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at this, and I'm just like, damn. Like, you know what I mean? He did it. He said he was gonna do it, and he did it. And then, like he's saying, I know this is just the start because I know who he is. And so I'm just waiting to see how much further he's gonna go. As long as he keep me on the payroll,
He be straight.
I'll be straight. Throw me in a couple movies from now again. I'll be good. We won't even fall out.
Trying to get a leading role.
Right? I already told him. At that movie, I was like, hey, dog, I'm in the next movie, right? Like,
Oh my goodness.
don't forget. He's like, I got you, Kim. All right.
Oh no.
But yeah, man. So he humbly speak about it, dude. But the work that he does, it takes a lot of work to get there. A lot of work, a lot of dedication, a lot of sacrifice, and he's done all of that. So I'm not gonna let him humbly speak on it because it's amazing.
Yeah. You don't have to be arrogant. Martez, he'll be arrogant for you.
I mean, he the one that humbled me, so that's why I can speak like this today because, like I said, I would never forget when I had just moved into my crib. I was excited. Again, I got the house because of him. I'll never forget, we went out to breakfast. Me and my fiance, my wife was my fiance at the time. We was in between, like, whether we was going to keep the condo we was in or we was going to, look for a house. But then I'm telling him, like, man, I don't want no house if it ain't going to be a house. And he like, you can get you a house for X amount of dollars. I said, man, I can't get no house for that. He like, trust me, you can get a house for X amount of dollars. Your wife is a pharmacist and, you make X amount of dollars, you can get it. So sure enough, I went back home, told the wife, and you know what she did. Once I said Ken name, one Ken name came out my mouth in the house. She was like, well, all right, look, if you can get guarantee X amount of dollars in our savings, and then we'll look into it. Man, I hit that ground running. I did it and, purchased our first home. And, yeah, so. Dope. I forgot what I think I was going somewhere with it, but I forgot.
Humble, you was going.
How I became humble. So anyway, got the crib, and now from 3rd Street, I'm from the hood. Like I grew up with 16 people at a time in my crib, sleeping on the floor with my cousins and them, roaches and mice. You know what I'm saying? I really come from that way. You know what I'm saying? So I was excited for my first home. We got 3,000 square feet. 5 bedrooms, 4 full baths, 2 full kitchens. So I'm on the internet talking my stuff. And Ken, I'll never forget, Ken either text me or called me, said, Martez, you beat that game, bro. Your wife is a doctor. You got a nice home. You're doing X, Y, and Z. You don't have to continue to rub it in people's face. And I was like, you know what? And it was just me being excited. Right. But I understood what he was saying because I was able to listen to him. And from that point forward, realize that you can be excited, but you ain't got to be excited and boastful in the same breath. So now, I may post some every now and then, but it ain't going to ever be to the point where I used to. Like, trying to throw it up in people's face because I realize that everybody ain't fortunate enough to be in my position, and God don't love everybody as much as he loved me.
Hey, look, but hold on.
You still got work to do.
This I see.
You still got work to do.
Look, this is the post that did it for me. So he gonna take a picture of him with a lawnmower and like some $3,000 shoes.
Came a long way from the beat-up rock clubs you used to talk about.
Some expensive pants, this whole expensive outfit, cutting the grass with his house in the background. I said, man, if you don't take that damn picture off and stop trying to rub this in people's face, man, you got it, dog. You there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
no, it's I heard Larry Simmons, who's somewhat a mentor of mine. He runs Brightmoor Alliance. Say that there's a saying in Brightmoor, which is where I come from, that if you make it out of here, like you can do anything, right? Yeah. So do you feel that way? I mean, I got a chance to hang out in your neighborhood for some time, and I got a chance to meet a lot of the brothers that might still be over there hustling. Some of them transitioning and doing something else, but like what I gathered from them that if they could take that hustle and that fearlessness and transition it into something else, like there'd be some beasts in other industries.
There's me. I am them. Yep. You know, I'm a representation.
Say that
of them.
again. Say that again.
There's me and I am them.
Yeah.
I'm a representation of them. Like that's why they all cheer for me. That's why they all want to see me win, because they know where I come from. Like I said, grew up the same way like they did. I done been shot before. I done been, sold crack. I done sold weed. I done got robbed. I done been with some people when they robbed people. I done pulled guns out on, you know what I'm saying? Like, and to me, it's never nothing, because it's not nothing I want to boast about or brag about. But sometimes when I sit down and think about it, like, I could have been a product of my environment, you know? Where I come from, everybody sell drugs and good at it. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, so I definitely believe that if by me making it out of there, I can make it anywhere. But I always tell people, too, that the only thing that probably set me apart from everybody else is my faith in God. Like, I always been in the faith. Like, we got a church that's on the corner of my block that I grew up on, and I can remember it was cool to go to church as a kid because we had the plays and all that. But once that age came around 12 or 14 where everybody was, you know, worried about the birds and the bees, and not saying that I wasn't, but I don't know, it was something on my spirit that kept me going. Like, my grandma tell you, I never missed church, and I walk on my own every Sunday. And I just always kept that, tricking myself into believing if I didn't go to church on Sunday, something bad will happen. So that kept me in church, and sometimes when you just sitting within the word, that anointing can get on you, and I feel like that's what led me to where I'm at today. Because even when I got shot, like, the bullet hit me in the leg, it was somebody shooting at somebody else, but it was so close to my testicles that I could probably not be able to have kids. So, you know, just always just having, like I said, God love and God favor, I believe that.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. This is probably my favorite episode so far. For sure, man. And I appreciate you. Just from the time we met. I think like after doing the first ride for equity, and you shot me just some text messages randomly. You know what I mean? That definitely spoke to me, and I didn't know how deep a person you were. I ain't know Ken knew anybody this deep. You know what I'm saying? To be honest, you know what I'm saying? But no, I definitely appreciate you. I'm sure that there is a trail of people out here that you've been able to work with, do some stuff with, projects with, that you bring more to it than just somebody that's working on a project. And I appreciate that, man. And you being just the person you are, and like being willing to pour into people and not look for anything on the other side of it, not be worried about cameras being around or anything like that, man. Like, that's why I rock with you like I do, you know what I mean? Because I know that you care about people deeply, and you willing to like make commitment and sacrifice, you know. So appreciate y'all sharing y'all story, and I'll fall back if there's anything else that you want to pull out of them during an interview or anything else you want to share. I'll fade back and continue to just be, you know, a fly on the wall.
Well, I know he's working on, besides his production company, he's also working on doing some nonprofit stuff.
Yep.
So you want to talk a little bit about that, Martez?
Yeah, so outside of the movies and all of that stuff, I got a nonprofit that's called Maven Academy. It's named after my son, and looking to do the same thing that Ken did for me. Cause I tell people all the time that see, I ain't want to go there, but I tell people all the time, man, like, me and Ken changed my life. I could have been stuck on third, I could have been shot dead or something, anything. You know what I'm saying? But to be in the position I'm in today, to where I'm in a position to not only take care of my wife and my son, but even my family, my friends, and be somebody that people can look up to. It's all on the back of God and then Ken. Because Ken found me and seen something in me, and Ken was that voice of reason when I needed a reason, and still to this day. You know what I'm saying? Like when life get hard, or I run into moments where stuff ain't going as planned. I know I can pick up the phone and call him, and he gonna always give me the best advice to get me back on track. So, so like I was saying, the next thing is being able to do that for other people. And I started that last year, and I was doing the same for my cousin who recently passed. And it's just a testament to the work that needs to be done out here. You know what I'm saying? If you in a position to be successful or make some of yourself, I think you owe it to your people to give back. Yeah. And it ain't always got to be your people. It ain't got to be blood related. Just you owe it to somebody. Yeah. And my mission is, if I can change one, but I want to change as many as I can, because if I can do what Ken did for me tenfold, and then that next person can do it tenfold to that, then we changing the world little by little. It may not seem like it right now, but overnight you will see, because then now it's like a branch of people that came from this one stem of person that changed this person's life to now that person changed their life and they changing somebody else's life. And I think that's my true mission in life. If I leave this earth and I don't get the chance to change as many people's life before I leave, I feel like that would be failure to me.
Yeah. That's heavy, man. Yeah. Like, think of what kind of would come to mind is like the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few.
Yeah.
I think what he followed that up by saying was, pray you to the Lord of the harvest, though, that he's sending more laborers. So as, obviously you've been laboring and you are moving towards the laborer, right? That's going to be my prayer. Y'all just reminded me to pray that God sends more laborers, because we know the need is great. We know it's a lot of folks out there in the situation that we were in when we were teenagers, right? That need that voice of reason. You know what I mean? Need the Ken or the Martez to be available for them. So that's going to be my prayer moving forward. So thank y'all again, man, for sharing your story. And thank y'all for crying. 'Cause, that should help us.
Yeah, I ain't got no shame.
That should get us more views. You know what I mean? Like,
hey, look, man, I ain't got no shame in it, man. I mean that with my heart, and I tell them all the time. Because the funny thing about it, although they may see us crying, but I feel like we both tuck cookies behind the scene. Like, I feel like once a year, twice a year, it's always place on my heart to tell them I love him, how much I care for him, even if you don't text me back, because we both men. So it's like, but I feel like I always remind him, like, because, me and him did change my life. Yeah. And, it means something when not only somebody changed your life, but they in your life for every moment, you know what I'm saying, every situation, and vice versa, because it done been moments where, he done had some situations, and I done been on the other end, and like, bro, you got it, and listening to his problems as well. And, I just wish that's what we can do as black people. So we didn't get to do the segment, Angry Black Man, but I think that's one of the things that make me angry as a black man.
We can do that.
Yeah.
We can do that.
It's just...
So I'll set it up.
Yeah.
And then you can go. So we're going to do the segment, Angry Black Man, and the reason we do this segment is because oftentimes we are shamed and policed for expressing any emotions, right?
Yeah.
But anger is one that they really is weaponized against us. So if we end up being upset about something and being demonstrative in our body language, tone, or whatever, like, get labeled that. So a lot of us withdraw and police ourselves from even being willing to show that emotion. So we invite our guests to share something that makes them angry and be an angry black man. So what's your angry black man, that thing that makes Martez angry?
The thing that makes me angry is how black people can't come together. Because you look at, and I know that it's systematic. You know, they put a damn good system in place to make us continue to hate each other. But when you look at what we've been through, you know, over 400 years ago, and you be like, at some point we got to be like, all right, it's time to come together. And so what makes me angry is when we can't come together as a whole and figure this thing called life out together. Because as you see, when we come together, we powerful. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, if we really wanted to run the country, us 4 men that's in here now, we could if we put our mind to it. Because that's black people. It's nothing that a black person can't do. You know, that's why they try to keep us away from so many things. Because once we get our hands on it, it's over. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's what make me angry is the fact that I don't feel like we realize how much power we have within ourselves, and then how much more power we have when we all come together, you know, and love one another. And trust me, it's certain moments where I can understand, you know, where you're mad at somebody else, but we got to figure a way to at least be on all accord together.
Yeah. I mean, when you tied love in it, that's it, right? Like, that's it. What y'all just talked about was a love story, right? And
I like the way you said,
Jared, you do the editing, so we make sure that stays in there.
We're not going, that is not going to be in there. This is not a love story.
But like what, if you think about like the spiritual component, right? Think about the thing that Jesus tried to continue to drill into the disciples was to love each other, right? And y'all just described like love for each other and loving each other. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing that we need to really motivate and inspire us to come together. You know what I mean? We talk about it all the time. Like I've heard it my whole life. If we could just come together, you know. But like that's it, and if you're gonna love Dwan, you're gonna have to forgive Dwan at times, and give Dwan a pass at times. I'm not always lovable. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna always make you want to love me. You know what I mean? But if you're gonna be committed to loving me, then that's what it's gonna take at times. So like I appreciate y'all again. You know what I mean? I can't say it enough for like sharing like a love story with the rest of us.
It's not a love story. We're not going to keep calling it a love story. We're definitely not going to keep doing that. But no, I think it's interesting, though, because he did share something which is important, to, you know, to tell, like men don't tell other men they love them. You know what I mean? And just, like, just general man. You know, like, I love Jared. I love you. I love Lorenz. You know what I mean? We don't tell each other just, I mean, obviously I love Martez, but we don't even just tell people we care about, like, dude, I love you. You know what I mean? And so so the fact that he's always taking time to do that, I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, I made some wisecrack at him. You know what I mean? Of course. You know, because that's what we do. You know, because you don't even know how to accept it, really, from another man, right? Unless it's like your dad or your kids or something. So, and maybe not that, depending on how you grew up. You know what I mean? Hearing people say, I love you.
True, right.
You know what I mean? We ain't grow up hearing a lot of people say you love you. Your mama may have said it, maybe, but definitely not no men. You know, so when you receive it, sometimes it's difficult to receive that. So, you know, when he would do that, and then I'll be like, bet, you know, and I return it, say a wisecrack, and then later follow up and try to do that. But again, a lesson learned from him, how important that is, how that made me feel at that moment. Like, okay, I need to share that myself. I need to tell him that, but I also need to tell other people, you know what I mean, that I'm just close with, like, you know, I love you. And then, like, even here, Lorenz has a tendency to say it, you know what I mean? And even receiving it from him, I'm like, that's weird, dude. You know, but I appreciate it, I value it, because, like, why don't we do that?
I think about, like, for you and the story that you shared about, like, the conversation you had with your mom. You know what I mean? Just about that, and how, like, you end up getting it from Martez, you know what I mean? And then others, you know what I mean? Like your wife, because you talked about that as well. And I mean, so my dad, one of the moments that's like burned in my memory forever, So I remember my dad was in the bathroom like shaving or something, and he called me from my room, and I came in there. It was like, yes, you know what I mean, trying to see what he wanted, and he like stopped and was like, do you know that I love you? And it was a question, right? He didn't even say I love you. He was like, do you know that I love you?
Yeah, do you know it?
Yeah.
Right.
And I can't even remember my response, right? Mm-hmm. But like, and I knew that my dad loved me, but he was going through some stuff, and it was rough patches and whatnot. And my dad would like get on me, you know what I mean, about things. But he also shared with me that his dad never expressed that to him. You know what I mean? His dad was, you know, my grandfather, you know, was adopted, and he was in foster care for a long time before he was adopted. And my grandfather was in really, really like abusive situations. So like his form of running a household with 13 kids was he would be really, really physical. You know what I mean? In some ways that like I've only heard stories about, I've never seen from my grandfather. But my father did his best to break from that, you know, tradition. And my dad would like holler at you if you needed to be hollered at. But that wasn't his go-to. My dad would have a conversation with you, and that'd be enough most of the time. But like that's burned in my image. So I appreciate y'all bringing that up, and I definitely think that, you know, we need to do more of that and be willing to share that. I mean, but also show it. You know what I mean?
Also show it.
Not just say it, but also show it.
Yep.
And I just appreciate, you know, this. I'm gonna watch this podcast probably a couple times. So because I need to hear this more. I need to see this more. I see way too much of us, you know, diss records, diss tracks, and conversations about who got the best diss track, you know what I mean, of all times and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, you know, y'all should come out with a mixtape on love songs to each other. You know what I'm saying? Just see who can have the best love start. You know what I'm saying? Start a new trend. You know what I'm saying? Like we could be like conversation. Next generation gonna be who got the best love song to each other. You know what I'm saying? That's what y'all should do.
That's not what we're gonna do. We're not gonna do that. How you gonna try to say that in all seriousness? That's what y'all should do. We're not ending the video on that. No. You better say something else. Ask another question. We're not ending the video with us.
Those pressed up, Jared.
But that's it. But on theme of us needing to come together, and with what y'all shared, like I will say that I love you both, and I am glad to be on this journey with both of y'all.
Love you too, bro, for sure.
That's it. Spoke for ourselves. We out.
Peace.